Krown Produce secures produce locally and from around the world for Canadian retailers. Krown Produce is also proud to secure sponsorship of university football on Shaw. Krown Produce, supporting Canadian retailers and Canadian amateur football.
Legendary punk band DOA have a brand new studio album out now. We Come in Peace. There's also a brand new live album by DOA. Welcome to Chinatown, DOA Live. Get them at suddendeath.com.
One team goes home perfect from Kingston. Records fall across the CIS. And the Roundtable offers no apologies for UBC. Krown Countdown U counts down now.
Hey everybody, welcome to Krown Countdown U. I'm Ryan Sullivan. That's Andrew Wadden. Andrew, how was your weekend?
Oh, fantastic, Ryan. Went to Costco, got a tub of peanut butter like this big. I got peanut butter for weeks, months, possibly years.
I don't think anyone really cares. Did you watch any football?
Oh, yeah, a little bit of football. It's something about records being broken in Ontario and some big game in Kingston. I don't know.
You're one hell of an analyst there, Wadden.
I do my best.
There was a heck of a game going on. Queens and Guelph, homecoming number 2 at Queens. This was absolutely huge, a battle for sole possession of second spot in the OUA. Let's get right to it. Welcome to Kingston, Ontario. Stu Lang and the Guelph Griffins taking on Queens Gale. Queens don't waste any time on their first possession. Billy McPhee hits Scott McDonnell for 27 yards. Then he rides the horse that got him. McDonnell for 7 yards out. 7 blank Queens. Queens staying relentless. A few possessions later, Daniel Heslop with a carry off the draw. He finds some room right up the can. Queens knocking on the door again. Billy McPhee avoids a sack then and hits Aaron Gazendam, TDQUE. Now I'd like to take a UBC moment. This is what happens when college football is done right. What? People care about college football in Canada? Get out of here. It's true. All right, let's get back to it. Time ticking down before the half. Lindsay can't escape a sack. It leads to a punting situation. Props for not taking the boring safety, but this punt is whack. A brutal boot leads to great field possession and a Dylan Walmsley triple to end the half. He would have 3 field goals on the day. Queens leads after 2 Qs, 17-16. They would separate themselves in the second half. Daniel Heslop gets it going in the third from 24 yards out. Gales lead 27-16 at this point. Jazz Lindsay trying to mount the comeback, but this moon ball is easily picked by Andrew Liu. That's his second pick of the day. It leads to this easy score for Queens. This thing all but done. Guelph in the red zone, and Peter Hannon gets his first major of the day. Guelph couldn't ride the wave though. Lindsay hits Jan Dikabala Token, my favorite name in all of sports. Stick a fork in me, Jerry. I'm done. Guelph loses on the road, 37-23. The quarterbacks, they were comparable. Billy McPhee throwing 294 yards and 3 majors, 280 yards for Jazz Lindsay, 2 majors, but the big stat, 3 picks from the Jazzman himself. Guelph has dealt their first loss of the season.
It was a record-setting day on the campus of Western. Kick things off in the second Q. Will Finch to Brian Marshall for the major. That put Western up 20-0. And with that score, the Purple Ponies set a new OUA record for points in a single season. Later in the queue, Liram Haurulahu, that's right, nailed it, nails this triple. That set a new all-time CIS scoring record with 413 career points. Shift to the third, and another record bites the dust. With that completion, Finch set a new CIS single-season passing record with 3,047 passing yards. In case you hadn't already guessed it, Western took the game, smacking the Lions by 40. Finch had a monstrous game, tossing for 547 yards on 32 of 48 passing. with 3 majors plus 3 picks. However, it didn't matter. Western had 3 different receivers haul in over 100 yards, including George Johnson, who racked in 226 yards on 13 catches, scoring 1 touchdown. For York, Arrow Brooks came up well short of contending for the OUA rushing title. He came into the game needing 165 yards to pass Laurier's Dylan Campbell. However, he rushed for just -2 yards, or the equivalent of what Ryan could muster if he was still eligible to play.
Toronto hosting Waterloo. Paul DePass in his final varsity blue appearance. Right here he connects with Simon Nasser on this 103-yard reception. DePass finishes his U of T career with 2,490 yards receiving, a U of T record. Toronto wins with ease 50-18. Toronto finishes the year 4-4 at 500 for the first time since 1993.
The GGs locked up 5th place in the conference after handling Windsor by 30. With the win, the GGs will face McMaster next Saturday in the OUA quarterfinal.
McMaster, Carleton, well, just take a look at the scoreboard. That tells the story. 45-3 the final. And here's a look at your final OUA standings. Western at the top, they are perfect. At the bottom, Carleton. Man, those uniforms are nice. Your season, it really wasn't. Here's a look at the OUA quarterfinal matchups. Ottawa visiting McMaster. That one gets going at 1 o'clock on Sportsnet 360 this Saturday. The other OUA quarterfinal matchup, a special start time of 8 o'clock. The Windsor Lancers visiting the Guelph Griffins.
All right, off to Calgary we go now, where there's a certain doctor that resides in that city. He prescribes touchdowns. This weekend, he got a few. Let's get right to it.
Records were on the line in Calgary, however, so were playoff hopes. Second quarter action, Rams down by 9. Cayman Shutter connects with Addison Richards. That's a big gain. That set up this goal line plunge from Shutter. Dinos lead cut to 2. Shift to the third. Dr. Goal Line shows why his name is, well, Dr. Goal Line. Mercer Timmis with the major, his 16th of the year. That ties Timmis with Don Blair for the Canada West single season touchdown record. Late 4th Q now, and Timmis etches his name in the record book, scoring his 17th major of the year, breaking the single season Canada West record. Calgary grabs the Rams by the horns, officially eliminating Regina from the postseason.
The Herd visiting the Pound, hands down best intro in the CIS. No hands are up, no disputes, Saskatchewan. First quarter and Jordan Yance finds Nick Dembski. He takes a lick, hangs on, great grab. Manitoba leads 10-3 after 1. Regina would briefly give up that lead, but then Jordan Yance, like he used to do on the sunny shores of Nanaimo with the VI Raiders, a perfectly placed pass for Dustin Peterson. Burko and the boys driving late, trailing by 7, but Cam Teshek with the robbery. Manitoba wins 33-26. Jordan Yance with 4 touchdowns through the air. He was phenomenal. Manitoba now sits with Saskatchewan at 4-3.
T-Birds over the G-Bears, 60-zip. That's the largest margin of victory in UBC history. The T-Birds will need a win in Calgary on Friday for a chance to move out of 4th place. Okay, big board time in the Canada West. Saskatchewan, Manitoba, UBC, all tied at 4-3 in 2nd place. Any one of those 3 teams could stay there depending on what happens this coming weekend.
One heck of a ball game coming up here in the AUS. You're not going to believe this. A lot of things on the line. The royal baby was baptized this week. His name is Prince George. Jordan Bucholtz from Prince George, and he was playing in this game. SMU, Mount A. Let's do this. Let's go to Husky Stadium. There's Jordan Bucholtz right there, taking it in for 6, soon to be 7. It's 11-8 SMU. Then off the flea flicker, it's Troy Trentham hitting Josh Blanchard from 37 out. Mount A takes the lead. They polish off the game with a 57-yard bomb from Brandon Lay to Trentham. 27-24 Mount A, your final. With the win, the Mounties pick up their first W at Husky Stadium since 1997.
Acadia improved to 3-4 with a convincing win at home over X.
Let's take a look now at the AUS standings board. St. Mary's sits atop the table at 4-3. Everyone else absolutely deadlocked. They're all 3-4.
La Belle Province, where football is loved by many, where upsets were happening, possibly, not really. Let's go to Laval.
The Ver Aor in Laval for this season's second edition of the Aor Bowl. Laval opened the game with a rouge and six safeties. So up by 10, Alex Skinner to Anthony Auclair, Red Machine in control. Late third Q, Pascal Lachard goes for the Superman dive into the end zone. That's another 6, soon to be 7 for the home side. Fourth Q now, Skinner to the air. Julian Bailey hauls it in. This one's over. Laval takes it in a walk. The Rouge Aor defense was stifling, holding Sherbrooke to negative 34 rushing yards and just 145 total yards of offense on the day.
Let's take a trip to Molson Stadium, home of the Redmen. They're hosting the Carabin. First score of the game, that's a safety. Second score of the game, that's a safety. 4-0 Montreal. They do get some actual football. Here's Manuel Crissier-Lazon with a 6-yard scamper. Then it's Sean Thomas Erlington from 3 out. Montreal leads 18-blank. They don't need road transcending. McGill does get on the board right there. Sammy Rassi with a 37-yard three-banger. This one's done. Montreal wins 28-3. Sean Thomas Erlington with a big day for Montreal. 110 yards on the ground, including that one touchdown.
Bishop scored 21 points in the fourth quarter to secure a 44-36 win over the winless Stingers. Jordan Heather with yet another massive performance, tossing for 465 yards on 29 of 47 passes, tossing 3 majors. Here's the standings in the queue. Second place still up for grabs, while the final playoff berth will be determined this weekend.
It's always a pleasure watching RSEQ games, and it's always absolutely horrific listening to you talk about them. Your French is amazing.
I've been going to French immersion, been doing night classes. Buddy, it's très bien at the moment.
I'll put some subtitles under there. Sorry to all the people that are watching in Quebec, because we can't speak your language. Coming up next, the Roundtable. It's beautiful.
Au revoir.
In English.
Whether it's your first home, a refinance, or an investment property, Kia Grant & Associates can find a mortgage solution for you. In association with Verico Paragon, the work she does for you is free. Find her on Facebook at Kia Grant Mortgages. Now it's time for the 3-minute warning brought to you by Kia Grant & Associates. This week, Blake Nill, the head coach of the Calgary Dinos.
Well, Blake, you've had some great success in Calgary, 5 straight Canada West championships, but I think a lot of people forget about your St. Mary's days out west. Out of all your teams, who was the toughest, most physical teams that you had over the years? Because I can remember a certain bowl game where your St. Mary's teams basically punched Kojo Adu all over the field.
Well, Jim, the 2001, 2002 St. Mary's teams are pretty special teams. I would have to say the 2001 team was my most powerful program. In that year we beat Laval 48-6 in the national semi, and beat Manitoba, who they thought had their top team ever, in the Vanier Cup fairly significantly. We were loaded with a lot of senior players and a lot of very good players that went on to both the NFL and the CFL.
Now, you've had great success, as we mentioned, in Calgary. You've managed to make it to 2 Vanier Cups. You've done something that no other Canada West team has done in terms of putting 5 Canada West championships together, but there are a few detractors out there in terms of the Calgary Dinos not having a lot of success on the national stage. After putting all these players into the CFL and into the NFL, what do you have to say to those folks?
More than anything, I realize the difficulty that we're having at the national level. It's very disconcerting to me. But what I've tried to do, Jim, is rationalize it, think about what I can do better as a coach in order to prevent that. Obviously, the formula wasn't quite right when we went into MAC last year or played Laval the year previous. But as a coach, you got to build on your strengths. And I know we have a certain level of strength, and I just need to find a way to improve that small window. And for instance, this year I've tried to approach my players differently. I thought, maybe you could as a coach, be more receptive to the players, be not too worried about the wins and losses, but approach the players different. So we're having a lot more fun on the practice field. We're approaching things a lot easier, and that could be the reason for the success we've had this year when it was definitely not expected.
Tell me about your approach to recruiting.
Well, I'm very passionate about recruiting, Jim. I look at recruiting as a competitive element. The reason I coach is 100% I love to compete. I love to compete against everyone. I try to get my kids to compete in the classroom, in the weight room, on the field, of course. And the recruiting element to me is just is an off-season competitive situation.
The CIS has a number of schools out there that benefit from active alumni, and the Calgary Dinos are no exception. How does the Fifth Quarter Club benefit you and assist you? And, when you take a look at the coaching staff, I think they've probably chipped in a dime or two for a guy like Steve Barato. That's got to be a huge plus for you on your coaching staff.
Oh, absolutely. Jim, the reason I initially came to Calgary was 100% the approach that the Fifth Quarter made to me. Initially, I had no reason to leave St. Mary's. We were at the top of the heap. Coming to Calgary wasn't the most attractive option on the field because of the lack of success they had. The Fifth Quarter convinced me to come. The thing that they do for me is they take the majority of the fundraising element out of my role, and I know that if I need revenue for scholarships, for whatever, that I'm going to have that, and they're just as passionate about this program as I am.
Blake, always a pleasure to talk to you. Best of luck as you approach the Canada West and the CIS playoffs.
Thank you very much, Jim.
All right, everybody, welcome back. It's time again for the round table. Now we welcome in Andrew Bucholtz. He is the editor of the 55-Yard Line on Yahoo Sports. It's coming to us live from the Shaw Customer Support Center. He's not, but it's a good-looking headset nonetheless. Andrew, welcome to the panel. Of course, we have Billy Greene, UBC quarterback, and Jim Mullin. Opening kickoff, biggest story from the weekend, the CIS. We're going to start things out with Andrew Bucholtz.
Yeah, well, I think the biggest thing going on in CIS at the moment is this report from Tony Gallagher of the province that UBC may be looking at perhaps cutting football down the line. It's important to remember that this isn't about the next couple of years. His piece said that pretty much the earliest they would do it would be 2015 or 2016, and it's very much the early stages of an athletic review at the moment. But to me, this is still a really interesting story, and one that has implications well beyond just UBC, because a lot of the news around CIS football in the last few years has been very good. We've seen great games like the last couple of Vaniers. We've seen great ratings for those. We've seen obviously the new national broadcast deal with Sportsnet, and we've seen Carleton coming back. So there have been a lot of signs that CIS football is in good shape.
Billy Greene.
This past weekend, Will Finch, quarterback at Western University, broke the all-time passing yards record. As a second year, that's a great feat. He's probably going to be the front runner for the Het Creighton Trophy. The offense that he quarterbacks also broke the all-time OUA scoring record as well. That was a big weekend for Western. They were really gunning for the records, as you could see by throwing 48 points against York. But they did it. They got it done, and congratulations to Will.
There you go. Jimothy Mullin.
Well, I'm skipping the opening kickoff, and I'm launching into objectionable conduct and picking up where Andrew Bucholtz left off. Billy, first of all, over to you, further to what Andrew said. You're a UBC grad, obviously. How do you feel about what's transpired here?
Pretty emotional, I guess you would say. It's a tough time. It's very similar to what we had to deal with back when all the NCAA talk was going on. It's going to hurt the players who are there right now. They don't really know their future. We got brought in and were told what the athletic department was thinking about doing with the NCAA. We were all kind of sitting there not knowing if we were going to be able to play football in the CIS the next year. It's really going to hurt the coaching staff for recruiting. So I think it's going to be very detrimental to the team in the short term and maybe the long term, and it needs to be squashed really quickly.
Yeah, they're going through a sport targeting process right now where at UBC they're evaluating all the varsity sports and trying to streamline things, apparently. Now, when this happened in various OUA schools, they took a look at a number of the sports that didn't draw, that didn't get the attention of the student body, and turned them into club status. Well, UBC is doing this thing completely upside down, and if they are projecting anything, if you want to go to the UBC website, not even the athletics website, Dr. Louise Callan, who's the Vice President of Student Affairs, put a video together explaining all of this. Varsity is only about this little bit on her map of her giant wellness campaign. And if you look at the various teams that are put forward who are varsity teams in this PowerPoint presentation, there are two sports that are not there, hockey and football. That is what they are projecting through this, and I think the writing's on the wall. Now, money talks in this situation. Doug Mitchell has given over $10 million through his family to UBC. The Sports Center is named after him. Dave Sadu has the field named after him. You don't think that these people just gave one big check over, do you? These people have obviously gone to the athletic department, and from what I understand, back on Tuesday, Doug Mitchell went to Professor Toop, the president of UBC, and had a very colorful conversation with him about the future of his donations. And of course, Doug Mitchell sits on the board at UBC. So a lot of things have to play out here yet. And I think at the end of the day, money talks. And I know Andrew talked about Carleton coming on board. That is a private nonprofit model for football, like a number of other successful models. And I see a path, if the athletic department is willing to do this, of private money coming in, funding the football team, funding the hockey team. Hockey team's going into the 100th year. Football team's going into the 90th year. And that these donors will put their money into a private nonprofit and take the programs forward. If the athletic department isn't open to this, they are completely insincere.
Now, and I'll open the floor with this question. I'll just send it out there. But moving forward, what can change with the football program to sway the people that might be voting against it and turning it into a club team? I mean, what can change this? I mean, you look at Queens, you look at Western. These guys are pulling in big crowds. UBC's pulling in big crowds. We're not having this conversation right now. Moving forward over the next few years, what can change?
Well, UBC hasn't been pulling in big crowds because the athletic department has mismanaged the product. If you take a look at the crowds, they've been dragging along on an average anywhere between 1,200 and about 1,700 now for the last 10 years, and that's because they don't know how to market the football team. They don't know how to reach out to students. It's a broader problem at UBC, actually, because when you take a look at a survey that was done just last year, UBC was 6th from the bottom in terms of being most disengaged from their student body. One way to engage with their student body is through the varsity programs because it's a place where students get together and have a good time, but they don't sell this to people on campus. You don't see a sign of the UBC Thunderbirds anywhere on campus outside of War Memorial Gym or Thunderbird Stadium.
Andrew, out to you, bud. From your point of view, what can change so this conversation doesn't need to take place in the future?
The football program really, in my mind, has the ability to bring much more interest, much more media attention to a school than just about anything else. Because keep in mind that while, say, swimming may turn out Olympic athletes, well, you've got Olympics every 4 years in the summer. Football, you're producing guys who can go out there and shine for, say, CFL teams or maybe even NFL teams every week. So I think really that the UBC administration isn't seeing all of the benefits from football. I think that, again, Carleton is an interesting case in point here because you look at Carleton has been a dominant CIS school in basketball for most of the last decade. They've got some great coverage out of that, but I am seeing much more about the Carleton Ravens this year than I have in a long while, and that's just from them bringing back a football team. Football really does get much more attention than any other CIS sport, and it really should be the building block for most athletic programs, in my mind.
You know what? I know there's a lot of sports out there that are not going to like to hear what I'm going to say right now, but football is the leader. It pulls the curtain for every other sport in university sports right now. The reason why Sportsnet is going to be doing a number of national championships and a number of other sports is that the Vanier Cup is coming over as part of that package. Those other championships would not be happening at Sportsnet right now if it wasn't for football. It's the ratings leader, it's the attendance leader, it's the attention leader. It is what you do if you are a big school. And the thing that amazes me about UBC right now is that in basketball they have complained long and endlessly about UBC being a big school and playing a bunch of minnows and playing a bunch of have-nots. And now, guess what? If you drop football and hockey, you're going to be one of those have-nots. You're going to be one of those minnows. Trinity Western's raising money right now for a football team. UBCO is getting their stuff in gear for a football team. UBC, what's your problem?
Well said. Now, before we jump ahead to Game of the Week, my 2 cents, I think if you want to bring fans into the barn, Mr. Bucholtz, if it's cool, if you could make it out to a few games, I would pay good money to see that mustache for 4 hours a day. You bet your bottom dollar. Let's move on to...
He's got Movember before Movember.
I remember all year.
All year member, yeah. Oh man, it's just phenomenal. I've been waiting all year to see that duster. All right, now games of the week. Let's stop talking facial hair.
Yeah,
games of the week. We're going to start things out with Jim Mullin.
You never say that about my beard. I'm very hurt by this.
It's very nice.
Well, you know what? Every game in the AUS. Every game in the AUS, because if St. FX beats SMU, we've got the possibility for a 3-way tie for first place at 4-4. And isn't it really symbolic of the way the AUS has rolled this year with everybody beating each other else to have a 3-way tie for first place? The one word that we're getting out of the AUS right now is, lo and behold, the smallest school in all of CIS football, Mount Allison, may be the most competitive heading into the playoffs. So watch out for Little Mount A and their 2,800 student body.
Billy Greene.
Pretty sure 5 people are going to be watching this game, but Manitoba, Alberta this week. Alberta has lost 24 games in a row, 0-7 on the season, but I think there's going to be a sense of pride with this team. They lost 60-0 last week out here in Vancouver, and if I'm the coaching staff, I'm getting those kids ready to play a team that they lost 65-47 to at the beginning of the season. So I think this team's going to come out, and I don't think they're going to roll over, and it may be a chance for them to play spoiler in Canada West.
I'll watch. We'll get up to a clean 6.
Yeah, that works for me.
That's not too bad. Mr. Bucholtz, what do you got, my friend?
For me, it's got to be Laval and Montreal. For my money, Laval has still been the most consistently dominant team this year. But Montreal, although they haven't been as good as they have been in past years, they're a team that on the right day, if things work right for them, they can maybe challenge the Rouge et Or. I think that we're very likely to see a national champion come out of Quebec again this year. I think it's very likely to be Laval, but I'm really curious to see if Montreal can show any potential to maybe take them on again in the playoffs.
There you go. He is the editor of the 55-Yard Line on Yahoo Sports, a tremendous blog. Please check it out. Also, you can find him on Twitter. I think this is the longest you've spent off Twitter since Twitter was invented. Appreciate you taking the break there, Andrew, and thank you so much for joining us, bud.
No problem. Thanks for having me, guys.
Anytime. And for Jim Mullin, for Billy Greene, I'm Ryan Sullivan. Thanks for joining us. Here is the CIS Top 10.
Saskatchewan slips to 10 after serving up their own destiny. Manitoba at 9. Looks like the semi is headed east. 8. Mac looking for past playoff glory this week. Number 7. Bishops. Fox on the run. It's a sweet song. 6. Montreal. Show us some offense versus Laval. See who play. 5. Guelph. Perfection is history. 4. Queens. Perfection is now. 3. Calgary cruising to title number 6. 2. Laval saving it for later. And number 1, Western, where records go to die. Thanks for watching Krown Countdown U as Countdown has Countdown.